Welcome back to Contextual Electronics. This video is going to be all about custom silkscreen graphics so that you can pretty up your PCBs and also add information and graphics that'll be useful to your users in case you want to, help, you can use it as a way to advertise or as a way to give direction or really just a way to have fun on your PCBs. Alright, so let's start by pointing out where some of this information comes from. There's a great site here called reinnovation.co.uk. This is where some of this information came from, and it also utilizes a tool over here that we'll come back to in a little bit from escalibre.com. But for now, let's just open up the KiCad launcher, and we're going to actually go into an entirely new program. So normally we've been working in PCB new, but we're actually going to go over here, the bitmap to component. So what this does, this actually creates an entirely new library from a bitmap. This is basically how you can just import a single file into this, and it'll create a single file library as well. So it'll create effectively one footprint from one bitmap, and then we'll show you how to do the rest here. So to start with, actually, let's look at the file we're going to use. So let's see here. It is loading. This is going to be a big shocker of what we're actually loading up here. Oh, it's loading the wrong program, that's why. Here we go. All right. Yes, that is very surprising. We are using a Contextual Electronics logo here. So you can see it actually, my computer was loading up GIMP, which you can use to edit your files and such. You can use GIMP. You can use a SVG editor like Inkscape or Adobe Illustrator, stuff like that. Really, it's all about creating, having something that you can recognize and something that is, I want to use this entire logo right here versus maybe if there was other stuff in the photo, if I, had Contextual Electronics and then a couple pictures, kind of like this desktop here. If I had all this stuff in it, it might be a little busy, especially if I only wanted to select one or two things. But in this case, I actually want to use all of it. All right, so let's go ahead and let's go ahead and open up the component to bitmap to component program here, and you see that it starts completely blank. We'll load up the bitmap we just had, and there we go. All right, so we can see this is the initial picture. If we go over to grayscale, we see it switches a little bit, and then what's actually going to get exported is the black and white picture. And so from here, you can see we've selected negative. It's actually whatever is, it's white on black, so whatever is in white here is actually what's going to show up in the silkscreen. And as we scale through here, you can see we can select the different amounts of shading and everything. Basically the threshold value, it's picking how much shading we're putting in there. It's kind of like a contrast setting. And so in this case, we'll say about that. That looks pretty good. And so this is actually going to be, if you look at the white overlay here, that's actually what's going to be put onto our PCB in the silkscreen. Silkscreen being the printed on layer. All right, so we're going to hit export. Let's go ahead and we can save it in the same location. We'll save this as CE. That'll be a footprint file. It's a .mod. All right, so we now have a .mod. This is an entire library just with this graphic here. So what we're going to do next is actually load this web page back up, and from here we can actually scale that image. So we actually want to have full resolution of that image. We want to be able to see as much detail as possible, and then if we look at what the code actually looks like, if we open up a notepad here and we drag in this ce.mod that I just made, this is actually what it looks like. This is a footprint file. It's just a bunch of CAD directives basically. So draw a line, and then it gives coordinates here and everything. And we can actually open this just by itself. So let's go into the loader, or sorry, into the PCB new. Here's a oh, we don't want to load that up. Sorry. Open a different project. There we go. And if we load up this library, go into the module editor like we've talked about in the past, we load up this library, we actually need to add this library first. So if we go back here, we need to go to Preferences, Library, and then we can actually go and search for the library that we just added. Since I have the location here, this is where it is. This is the library we're looking for. We're going to open that. You can see that it now exists here, CE. And now it saves a project as well. Now when we go to add a module and click and list all, we should actually be able to see, oops, CE logo, sorry. Yeah, there it is. So there is the default logo as it is generated. Now, in terms of actually the size of it, right, this is actually at the full size. So if we measure this, the width of this thing, we're in inches right now, if you see down here. So if we measure from, if we set a reference point here, hitting the space bar, then we go over to the right, you can see this is about a almost 5-inch logo on your Silkscreen. So if you have a 2-inch board, that's really not going to work here. So we're going to take this and then we're going to actually modify this entire library so that we can scale it down. And so we do that by going back to this web page. There we go. The bitmap 2 component scaler at escalibre.com. If we choose the file, we find the library here. This is the file we started with. Here's the actual library we created. And then we can actually set the width in inches. So I'm going to say I want a 2-inch wide logo now. We'll call this CE_mod. We can select which layer we want. We can select Silkscreen. We can actually put it onto the solder mask. We can put it on the adhesion layer or in copper or whatever else we really want to. I'm going to actually stick it on the Silkscreen because that's useful for this that's obviously what we're talking about here. And then it'll upload, you can see down here, it's uploading the file, and then it'll download it right back down. I will open this, pull this in here. All right, so now I called that CE mod, so I need to go back in and add this to the library. So I go Preferences, Library. I add this library. It should be in the same spot because I just copied it over there. See CE mod. Hit OK. Hit save. This is actually saving the project, so it knows where to look for all the libraries. And now we should see, if we drop the same file here, so we look at CE, it actually renames it CE mod. There it is. And we can see it is scaled down. All right, so that's good. So now we have a 2-inch wide scaled Silkscreen image that we could put onto our PCB. Now wait a second though, what is this thing here? This is actually an artifact from converting over. This is from converting the library from a bitmap to an actual footprint, which is a little annoying, but it's actually pretty easy to fix. So let's open up a text editor again, and we'll drag in this CE_mod that we created. This is actually from the website. And now if you look at wherever the name is here, so CE mod, you see that there's a DP, which is actually, it delineates the start of the footprint. But there's actually 2 of them. There's one here, and then there's one down here as well. And this first one is actually, that's actually that 2 segments of line. That's actually what we're showing here. So if we erase this, it takes a little while because these files can be kind of big. If we erase that, hit save, close that. We're going to close the PCB new without saving. Open it back up. It should reload the library here. Now we're going to re-add the module. Let's first add the logo, which is the one that we generated from directly from the bitmap. So this is just for reference. This is that 5-inch wide one. All right. And now let's also add CE_mod. Oops, there it is. CE_mod. And we see, yes, we have the 2 lines are now gone. Now if we want, we can also go in and remove these reference designators. There's also the naming. This calls it logo. This one calls it CE mod. We can move those wherever we want to, or we can just go in and edit it. The only thing you can't do, and this is very important because this is a very frustrating point, you cannot go into the the footprint editor, and you cannot manually remove these. You have to do that programmatically. You have to go in and actually modify the text file like I showed. So if you don't do that, you won't be able to remove this stuff. So it's very important. And like I said, this is all based on this tutorial over here from Reinnovation, and there's actually some other videos as well if you still need some more explanation. But all this stuff is very, very useful, this tutorial, so I highly recommend reading that in addition to watching this. The important thing though is we can basically put now we have the power to put any kind of graphic into either the Silkscreen, as this is. We can actually prove that over here if we remove F Silks. See, we actually stopped showing that, showing it is actually on the Silkscreen layer. Or we could put this in the copper layer. We can put just about anything into KiCad now. And you see that because we started with a big file and scaled it down, there actually is pretty decent resolution here as well. All right, so that is how we put a graphic into the Silkscreen. If you have any questions, head on over to the forum, and thanks for watching.